Hey y'all, Bloodwing here, back to bring some grumpiness to your internet. And welcome back to Redneck Radio, the live stream where today you get an extra healthy side helping of, see what's, how about a nice sirloin steak cooked the way you like it. Personally, I like mine rare to medium rare, and a nice baked potato with a fresh garden salad. Sounds pretty good to me. How about you, Jen?
Yeah, sounds right.
and
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, I've been discovering the section of my grocery store that has the pre-salads. And normally I wouldn't do that because as a cook, like salad should be the easiest thing to do. But half the time the mixes are cheaper than just like buying the ingredients.
Yeah, I don't get that, but yeah. And it keeps better because it generally comes in a resealable bag. At least here it does.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been doing that for like coleslaw mixes, and they've been advanced in their coleslaw mixes. So like I've been able to get some that have like a large mix of vegetables. Which, given the fact that I'm on a diet and my brother's on a super diet.
Yeah. Hello, chat. Hello. Let's see. We got Jen, but I pulled her in here. Paul Farrell. Let's see who all we got. Kyler, Clinton Whitaker, Recent Visions, Shigrath, Neckersall, Mad Max. Hello, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. Jim Beam has made himself known out there in the chat. Hope you're having a good day. Ready for some good news, bad news?
Sure.
The good news is I should be able to stream every scheduled day. Jaeger ponies out there every scheduled day today. So today, Thursday, and Saturday. Bad news is that's because I have 4 days off in a row. Which they did to me last week, but I picked up an extra day in there because I worked the weekend. But it's conflicting feelings. There's a part of me that says, "Yay, I'm off today," and then there's another part of me that says, "Boo, I have no money."
yeah, that's how it goes. It's like, it's nice to have. I remember that going into work and being like, I'm going to take all the extra hours I can get. And then, they'd be like, hey, we're kind of slow. Do you want to go home? And then you're just like, yes.
Yeah, sure. Send me home. Yeah. It's all part of being a part-time employee, which I am. And I knew going in, they were up front. You may only get 15 hours a week sometimes. And that's about what I'm getting this week is about 15 hours. And so, hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, usually after Christmas is kind of like that. Like anywhere that I've worked before, because it's always been like some version of customer service. January was always the month where they were just like, if we could encourage you guys to start doing your holidays now would be the time to do it because we don't have to replace you to do it, and it saves everybody else who's currently available hours. And it's just it's kind of like how it is. Everyone wants to take their holidays at the same time when you don't want people to.
Yeah. What it is with us right now is when I got hired on, I was told that one of the assistant managers, we have two, one of the assistant managers has a small child and she was wanting less hours so that there was a good chance I'd be filling that. Well, somewhere in the interim, she decided that she doesn't want less hours anymore. Probably after looking at her paycheck.
Yeah.
Kyler, you're right. Take it as it comes with me. Next week may be way too many hours. And I'm not holding my breath because I'm supposed to be off this weekend. We rotate, me and the other new person rotate Saturday, Sundays off, and this last Saturday, Sunday was my scheduled one. I worked the one before because it was hers and she called in sick. So it's supposed to be hers again this coming. And so I'm not holding my breath till I see that she's actually going to come in because I have my doubts. She's, I'm not so old that I don't remember what it's like to be 18, young and dumb. So Seagrass says, what do Virginia Tech and Mount Ayers have in common? They're both are minus 33 with a killer slope. Okay, then. All you needs out there. Hey, everybody. Glad to see everybody popping in here. Mike Savage. Hey. I want to say this because y'all helped me. There were some individuals in particular that helped me, but I give credit to all my subscribers because you guys have been a lot of help to me over the last several months, but that helped me get this gaming desktop that I'm on now, and I am thoroughly enjoying it. It's so great to click on something and it opens immediately. Yeah, Jen, I know you know what I'm talking about because you're on a less than satisfactory computer.
Oh, believe me, I made the mistake of trying to play Conan and then realizing that it's exactly what I liked about Ark and 7 Days all rolled into one. I mean, it's still glitchy. It's still got like issues with it that I wish they could improve on. But, I started playing it and, sure enough, with any game that I decide I end up liking, the first couple times I play it, my computer will let me play all day. And I'm like, ooh, well, this is working. I can stream with this one too. And, it's good to stream games that you're enjoying.
Yeah.
But
thank you. Real quick. Thank you, Cryptic, for the donation. So HD porn. No, not hardly. Not hardly. My computer's set up right in the front room. And although my wife can't see the screen, I'm on a 50-something inch TV as a monitor, by the way, which is just 3 feet from my face. That brings up that it's the only thing I got right now to use. And that brings up its own kind of problems. Like when I'm playing a game, I have to literally turn my head to see each side of the screen. So it brings up, its own problems, but I'm getting kind of used to it. But, my screen's turned a little bit away from where my wife sits at her computer, but, she gets up and down, walks around, and no porn.
But have you played any of your games on it yet? Like, have you tried?
Absolutely, I have tried. First of all, let me say this: that the next episode of Redneck Trek is in the can. I mean, as far as the footage, I have not done the voiceover yet, but you guys will see the difference. It is so clear. I thought it was good before because I had all the settings at the highest on my old computer because that game's just not that intensive as far as graphics. Now the laptop that Hammer sent me just would not play it. Period. It just crashed. Done that on every game for some reason. But it opens right up, and it just plays very well. And I just used the built-in recorder on Windows. A lot of people don't know that Windows comes with its own game recorder. You just have to know what the hotkeys are because they don't advertise that it's there. But if you hit the Windows key plus G, it will automatically bring it up. And it records pretty well, although the files that it puts out are massive. But I have a terabyte hard drive, so I'm not too worried. But the real test was, okay, I'm going to try Ark.
Yeah, that's where I was going with that one.
So, and that before I played Ark fairly smoothly, but I had it set on the lowest settings possible. I mean, to the point where there were sometimes I would be running along and then couldn't run anymore and didn't know why. And then it was because there was a rock in front of me that I couldn't see because it hadn't rendered yet. I know you've been there.
Yes, I have.
I put it on medium settings and it runs beautifully.
It's like a catch-20 when you do it too with the graphic. It's like you turn everything down low so that it'll function, but because it's down so low, when things do render in, the lag will hit you square in the face.
I've never played it before and actually be able to see the ground clutter. The only downside is even though I did save my save games from that, since I'm going in from another computer, it doesn't recognize me as that character. So even though I have my save game in Ark, which I put a lot of hours in that single player game, I'm going to have to use the cheat codes to get it to give me everything because it doesn't recognize me as the character that owns all that stuff. It's all there, but it doesn't, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there are cheat codes for that. So I just have been too lazy to do that. So then the next thing I thought, hey, Six. Yeah, it's been a while.
Hi, Six.
The next thing I thought I'd do is try 7 Days to Die because that's going to be the real test, right? Because that's the one that was giving me so much fits and aggravate me so much. Because I couldn't even hardly play it on the lowest settings.
Mm-hmm.
In a single player, I could play it, would still get some lag, but I could play it. I still haven't tried it on multiplayer yet on this computer because just haven't found anybody to play with. But I went into a single player game to try it out on medium settings, which is good enough. I mean, good grief, it's 200% better on them the settings I had it on. And it runs flawlessly. Never lagged one time.
Well, that's really good. Yeah, I'm glad for you. That'll help you out in the long run. And I mean, at least it'll last you a while. Like,
yeah. Well, see, that's the thing. I wanted to return back to desktops because they are upgradable.
Yes, and you can replace parts if they're not working. You don't have to do the whole. You don't have to spend the whole grand to $2,000 just to do it.
Yeah, and you used to play 7 Days to Die with me when we were all playing with Monkey and Satsu when they were doing that. Cryptic says, I have a 7-day server. Come play. I might have to check that out, Cryptic. Might have to. And thank you for the donation. Hey, Data.
Hi, Data.
But, you know, because we would all get logged in before they actually went live on those streams. And you know how long it took me to get in the game. You know, it was almost instantaneous. And I'm like, wow. Because before I could click start game, you know, or whatever the button says, get up, get a cup of coffee, go to the bathroom, piddle around, make a sandwich, make some cigarettes, come back, sit down, and I still wasn't loaded in, right?
I remember that. Yeah, it's still the same. Like that. That's pretty much how it's been for me too. And I'm a little bit worried that my Conan is turning into that, which is fine. Like there's things that I can still do to make it work. But I'm still gonna have issues with it. Like until I get fixed. Any game that I play, I have to remember to save like every 30 minutes because sure enough, eventually it's going to crash.
when I say instantaneously, it wasn't exactly instantaneous, but compared to what I would go through, I mean, I'm serious. It would take 5 to 10 minutes for me to load in a game. I'm not joking. And this was under 60 seconds.
That's basically why I stopped playing with the group. It wasn't because I still visit them every once in a while to at least, you know, chat with them and all, but it's just, you know, I'd be sitting there waiting for 20 minutes to log in. They'd all be playing. I would log in. And if I was lucky, I could run around for like 25 minutes beating up rocks and trees.
Yeah, Jen and I were usually on rock beating duty because that's about all we could do without lagging out.
It doesn't make for, like, I mean, that's why I resort to playing pranks on people, because if I'm streaming something and all I'm doing is whacking rocks, like that's the most boring kind of game ever. But you know, I learned that, you know, with the crossbow, you can put a scope on it and then snipe people with it.
Yeah. Push button says, sorry, I'm late. I was cooking cheeseburgers. Never apologize for cooking cheeseburgers. Never apologize.
Yeah, but Data, it doesn't matter how smooth it runs. Like it's not fun if I have to wait 10 to 15 minutes to log into a game and then just get booted like 30 minutes later.
The issue is, and I'm interested to see how this works for me, because I could play single player on 7 Days to Die. It was the multiplayer that gave me huge fits. And 7 Days to Die is notorious for being laggy in multiplayer. You watch people like Neebs Gaming, and even they get it sometimes. And you know they've got extremely high-end machines and their own servers and all that stuff, you know?
And they've got the money to put towards it.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and that's not shade at them. They've earned everything that they've done.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm proud of their work. Like, I'm kind of watching their Conan series right now because, like I said, I've kind of jumped right into that one, and
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed their Conan series.
You know,
but this computer is not a high-end gaming. I would consider it a mid-range.
Yeah.
It has a i5 quad core processor, has 16 gigabytes of memory, has a GeForce 1030 GT, which is one of their lower to mid range cards, with 2 gigabytes of memory on board that, and a terabyte hard drive, and it's worlds better than what I had before, and it's upgradable. If I get the money to stick a new video card in it or whatever I want to do later on, it's easy. Just open up the case, pop it in, boom.
So what you just described as your next meal, Duck Dog, sounds amazing. But if I were to do what you're doing, I would set back my diet like 30 pounds.
Oh yeah, I love patty melts, man. And I love patty melts, and the egg on a burger. If you guys have never ate an egg on a burger, oh my gosh. But it is artery hardening as you wait. You can hear it.
Yeah, I managed to that was my other piece of news. I've dropped a little bit more, so I'm down to 173. I am about 10 pounds to the point where I can say I'm no longer in the obese category, because for some reason BMI has decided that if you're over 180, you're like obese.
Yeah. See, and I don't understand that. On my mother's side of the family, there are several tall women. Mm-hmm. My grandmother was very tall, and my daughter, Mama Minnie, that you see, she's 5'10", which is tall for a girl. I have a cousin though who is 6 foot tall and drop dead gorgeous. I mean, she's model gorgeous, right? I kid you not. But I bet she weighs 200 pounds.
Yeah.
But she doesn't look it, because she's tall.
But the height thing is kind of important too. Like, I'm only 5'4".
Yeah.
So for me, I think that probably adds to it. But like I said, like, knowing that I'm that close to the point makes me feel a lot better, because like I am a little bit muscly. Like, a lot of my weight is due to the fact that I tend towards going muscly on my legs, especially because I walk all the time. But it's mostly just like, as long as the weight isn't around my waist, that's kind of the most important thing. Like, I don't really give a shit if I have a bit of a booty or, if I have a little bit of a love handle. Like, that's not really the issue. The issue is mostly just getting to the point where
it's health. Where you're healthy.
Health. Yeah.
Congrats.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's the punk in me that wouldn't mind being like, maybe a little bit closer to being skinny. But like, realistically, at my age, that's not really the most important thing.
Data, congratulations, dude. That's a huge, with your eyesight, that's huge. He says he got his driver's license renewed this morning. And with the eyesight problems you've had in the past, that's cool.
That's good data, though. Like, that'll help you out a lot.
Yeah. Hey, Pat, how you doing?
Hi, Pat.
Yeah, Kyler says 5'4", and Kirby wolf whistles. Yeah, I'm old school in my. I don't like the really, really, really skinny models of today.
Yeah,
my ideal is a little bit thicker than that, I guess you'd say.
Like, I'm not necessarily gonna pin her up, but like. Oh, good God, I can't even remember her name. She was famous too.
Yeah,
Marilyn Monroe. Marilyn Monroe
yeah.
is actually closer to what I'm aiming for, because I think, like, yes, she's been skinny, and yes, she's been bigger. Like, there's different periods in her life, but
she would have been considered fat by today's standards.
Yes, I would actually aim more for hers, because she did have nice curves, and let's be real, she was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Even in today's standards, if she walked by, and I'm a straight girl, I would still turn my head to look at her.
Yeah,
she was gorgeous.
the pinup girls of the 40s and 50s are more my ideal as far as what looks good on a woman.
It's a little bit more healthy, and this isn't shaded like super thin girls, because I do know that there's some women who are born who are naturally thin, like they are naturally thin. But I do think that the hip bearing thing, I do think there's kind of a thing to it.
And Neckersall mentions Betty Page, and absolutely yes, Betty Page, yes, absolutely. Betty was just Just something about Betty that just, you looked at her and you were like, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, you were like, crap, she's sexy.
See, the thing is like I just picked Marilyn Monroe because she's the first pinup girl image that comes to mind. And I mean, I'm blonde too, so I mean, maybe I'm just.
Well, Betty gets a little bit of a bum rap sometimes because she done some BDSM bondage type pinup pictures, and which I don't understand why that gives her a bum rap, but it does, you know. And but yeah, the that body type is more my style than the all bones and see their hip bones poking out, and come on, put some meat on. I'm scrawny. I don't want to, knock boots with you and have to worry about hurting myself on your bones.
The other thing too is like there's a part of me that's really cynical, and yes, I'm making fun of my own country again, but considering how communist we've gotten and seeing how fast it applied to Venezuela, I'm just like, do I really want to lose too much weight just before we go through a forced famine because our country's retarded?
Absolutely.
At least we live in the country of plenty. You know what happens to us if they try to tell us what we can and can't eat? We just go out and we start hunting again.
Well, they try here, like they, oh, okay, well, no more supersized soft drinks or blah, blah, blah. Screw you. Don't you think I can make the decision of what size soft drink I want without you making it for me?
And honestly, what stops you from just getting 2 of them?
Yeah. And they've done it with bottled drinks here. You used to be able to get bigger bottled drinks than you can now. But they lowered the size of it, and the others are not even available anymore. And all that means is I'm going to drink more of the bottles.
That's basically it. You're going to buy 2. Like, that's just silly.
Yeah.
The best thing to do in that situation is more of just educating people and then letting them decide for themselves what it is they want to do. If you want to continue, it is on you if you want to drink your weight in pop. I would rather have food. I would rather have food than that much pop, but
oh, I would absolutely. I love food. I'm always hungry. My wife and I were having that conversation yesterday. She was getting ready to go to work. She goes to work about 8:15 in the evening and then works all night. So getting ready, walking into the kitchen because we're a little thin in the cabinets this week. We're doing all right, but there's not like a smorgasbord kind of thing. And I I'm still freaking hungry. I've been hungry all day. And she's like, I never get full. I'm like, I know, but yeah.
I'm in the same boat. I mean, luckily I'm still on a diet. So for some of it, it's one of those things where healthy food is more expensive, but if you know how to cook, you can still stretch it out for longer. So it's not really.
I'm a good cook. I'm a pretty good cook. I actually trained to be a chef at one time in my life, and I'm a pretty decent cook. But what I'm really good at is making stuff up with what you have in the cabinets. You don't have a lot. So you just, you take a little of this and take a little of that, and a little of that, and you make a meal out of it. That's what I'm good at.
Yeah, Pink Hollow, I wish I was closer to the Mennonites. We do absolutely have farms in our province. Like, I mean, it was in the news with these guys invading a farm that raised turkeys and effectively kidnapping 5 of their turkeys. And you know what? There's been no updates on the turkeys that they kidnapped, because I wouldn't be surprised if they were dead, because for some reason it didn't occur to them that human contact with animals is a really good way to make them sick.
When my kids were still younger and living at home, and I think they still eat it today, because I know Mama Minnie did when she was still living here. One day I just, there wasn't nothing much in the cabinets. I found some macaroni and cheese, and I found some cans of tuna. So I throw them together and made macaroni and cheese and tuna, and they love it. My grandkids love it. I love it.
That's a good way to make that is a casserole effectively. I mean,
yeah.
all that you're really missing in there is maybe like some odd vegetables if you have them, like onions or something. Or
And I've done that too.
but,
Take some mixed vegetables or take some peas and throw it in there, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. But yeah,
I do that too. Like anything to throw like this is what I do when I think of like actual nutrition. Is actual nutrition. It's like what am I eating that's actually going to do something for my body? Like if I'm eating a hamburger, I'm eating a hamburger because it's good, but there's still stuff in a hamburger that are still nutritious,
right.
It's just the equivalence of like, okay, what am I going to do with this nutrition? Like this hamburger is probably going to be enough energy really to last me a good while because it's a hamburger.
Yeah, and I've been known to just make hamburger, not even put it on a bun. Just eat the hamburger.
Yeah.
When I fry up hamburger, because it's just my wife and I, there's usually leftover, and I don't want to just not cook it because it'll go bad too quick. So I'll just cook it all up, even if there's more there than what we can eat. And so for the rest of the day, every time I walk by the plate, I'm grabbing a hamburger patty and eating it. I am a meat eater.
Me too. It's more of just the math when it comes to meat. Like given how I process food and how quickly I do and how much exercise I actually get, I'm not avoiding meat. I'm just eating less of it. If I was more active, I wouldn't give as much of a shit. Like, I mean, I had a sandwich yesterday with some meat, and then I had a can of beans, and that was my protein for the day. And then like the day before, I threw some meat into a salad, and then I had some soup. It's just I'm eating a lot less. And I do have the odd day where I just won't eat meat. I'll substitute with like an egg or cheese. But I like meat. I wouldn't want to do that all the time.
Yep.
It's just if you're not using up what you're consuming, then you're probably overeating. And I tend to gum up from too much meat.
Oh God, Pat, I agree with you. With me, it's because I'm burnt on it. In 1979. 1979, I moved to Southern California for several months. You say, well, why would you do that? Well, I had a friend that she moved out there and says, oh, you got to come out. It's great. So I did. And I was only 19 years old and, footloose and fancy free, didn't have anything hold me down. So I moved out there and I lived in a house. I shared a house with two other roommates. There were three of us that lived there. And we would all pitch in on food. And since none of us really was making what I would call bank, we were surviving, but we weren't making a lot of money. We would stock up on tofu because it was cheaper than the meat and we could fill ourselves up on it.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that I necessarily liked it. It just was cheaper than the meat.
That's even in Japan. That's what tofu is. It's a filler meat. It's like I don't have the funds to purchase some real meat, and at least it gives me something. And I mean, tofu is versatile. Like it'll pick up any flavors that you cook it with.
We made burritos.
Yeah.
With tofu and avocados and whatever else we could stick in there and.
Yeah, I mean, if you cook tofu with like onions and garlic, it'll taste like onions and garlic,
But at 19, it was more important to us to make sure that our stock of hard liquor in the refrigerator was there than food. It's just, at that age, that's the way it is.
The one that I liked, though, and it's probably the worst type of soy that you can have, is the dessert tofu. It's like fruit and sugar in tofu. I'm like, yeah, it tastes good. It's got fruit and sugar in it.
Yeah. I've not ate tofu since I moved back from California. I haven't touched it since 1979 because I had way more than I wanted there. But in the meantime, I need to go grab a cup of coffee like you did right before the stream. And it won't take me a second. I'm not even going to mute myself while I go. So I'll be right back, guys.
All right. I guess it's my turn. So yeah, in terms of meat, the one that I've been thinking about a lot is something that I had like a year ago. And honestly, this is how you know that I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian in any sense of the word. But I went to this farmer's market with my mom, and part of the store has like indoor stalls where they have little food booths. And this one group had these soft tacos, and man, they made these with a meat brisket as the meat base, and oh my god, that brisket just fell apart in the mouth, and it was so fucking good. But I'm a poor person talking about a meat brisket, man. Do you know how much that costs? That's like a year's worth of. I'm kidding. Yeah, I mean it's expensive though. Like, um,
And I'm back.
Alberta is kind of like the Canadian equivalent to Texas. So the fact that they've raised our beef, and it's not terrible. It's just when you come from the province of the beef herders, and they're charging you as much, if not more, than the people that you're selling to in different provinces, you're just sitting there like, that's bull.
Yep.
Yeah, talking about a meat brisket soft taco.
Yeah, I could never be a vegetarian or I just couldn't because I like meat too much. And no, it doesn't bother my conscience that a living being died for my enjoyment. I don't care. Do you need help slaughtering it? Because I'll go out there and help you.
It's like I think it's like little things that would make me hesitate are like, lambs and rabbits. So if I'm hungry to the point where I'm looking at a baby lamb and I'm looking at a rabbit and I'm thinking, you know what, you would look really awesome on my plate with a side of potatoes and some carrots, that's how you know that you're a meat eater. Because I still like the baby lamb. I still feel bad for the baby lamb, but he would still be really delicious on my plate with some carrots and potatoes.
Shoot, I used to have I used to have pet rabbits. I've also eaten rabbit. I don't care.
Like the only other reason that you're keeping a rabbit that's not a pet is maybe because you're using the wool. Like there are certain types of breeds of rabbits where you use them for wool.
Mm-hmm.
But those are very rare. And you're not going to kill that one because that rabbit's probably worth a lot of money because Angora, I think it's Angora wool is what they're called.
Mm-hmm.
Those aren't cheap.
Judithine says there were food stalls in town for Christmas. One had grilled venison loin. I went back for seconds.
Oh, yes.
I love venison. Dear me,
Yes.
love it.
Yes.
Love it, love it, love it. My aunt used to make the best spicy jerky, hot jerky, venison, deer jerky. Oh my gosh. Oh, it was so good. She's no longer with us anymore, and I really miss her making, because she would make, at home. She'd make deer jerky and would always make some just for me. I'm like, oh, I miss that.
My dad had a period of time where he liked trying to dry food and experimented with it. It's just he went over the hill at least 3 times, blood. And on his journey to 76, he's cut out like everything in his life that was kind of fun. It is just, I appreciate that he's on a diet for his own health, but I'm like, Dad, if every once in a blue moon you decide you want to have some like jerky of whatever flavor type you want, go for it. You're old. There's nothing else coming your way.
Yeah, Bandsma, I don't have to have booze to be called a hillbilly. I get called a hillbilly all the time, and I rarely, if ever, drink. Yeah, and I it doesn't bother me. I'm proud of it. Yeah, okay, so I'm a hillbilly. So what? And your point is, but okay. I'm going to tell you a little humorous story. Those of you that follow me on Twitter or have Twitter so they can follow me may have seen this tweet, but I'm going to tell it again. So yesterday, Monday, I have an alarm set on my phone so that I get up, early before it's light. I get up, it's still dark, to go get two of my granddaughters all the way across town and take them to school and come back. You all know that. That's well known that I do that. So, and let me just mention that yesterday morning when I left, it was only 13 degrees Fahrenheit out.
Ooh.
Now, if you're
Yeah.
not familiar with Fahrenheit, that's freaking cold. It's very cold. That's cold where if you have uncovered skin and you're out more than a few minutes, you risk frostbite.
Yeah.
That's how cold that is. It was serious cold, and it had been that way for 2 days here. It's warmed up a little. It was 24 degrees when I left this morning. So it's a little warmer. But anyway, drive all the way across town, which is at least a 20 to 25 minute drive through some high traffic areas. Pull up out front of their house, pull in the driveway, and send my usual text. My granddaughter, who's 11, has a cell phone.
Yeah.
Which I have my own issues on whether or not an 11-year-old needs a cell phone, but her mom, it's up to her mom. And it is handy for me. I can just send her a text message saying, hey, I'm outside. I don't have to get out of the car and go in and get them. No answer. So I text hello, ? No answer. I try calling instead of texting. No answer. I get up. I go to the door, which is unlocked. Let myself in. The only thing I find is the dog.
Oh. And now you're getting nervous and upset.
I'm looking all through the house. I'm hollering my granddaughter's names out. As I go through the house, I go upstairs. And finally, after hollering, J-Kid, who lives there with my youngest daughter, comes out. Obviously had been dead asleep. Says, there's no school today. What? There's no school today. It's Martin Luther King Day. Oh, for Pete's sake. Well, somebody could have told us before I made the drive. Could have slept in, could have stayed up playing games longer last night. Whatever. Drive all the way back home. The 11-year-old eventually gets her messages. She's staying at a friend's house and calls me to laugh at me. Didn't you know? No, Bansma. Papa didn't forget. Papa didn't know. Because Martin Luther King Day is what I call a bank holiday. Because only the banks and the schools are off. Everybody else has to work. So there's nothing to trigger my brain that, hey, the kids might be off school today. Right? Oh, drove all the way over there for nothing. And my granddaughters were still laughing at me this morning when I picked them up.
Well, your granddaughters sound adorable.
Oh, they are. I love all my grandkids. And I have this relationship. I have purposely tried to develop this relationship with all my grandkids. They are just as apt to say, you're fat and old as they are, I love you.
Yeah.
Which I love because that's my relationship. We banter with each other.
Yeah.
That's and I love that. Now my wife feels like, ooh, that's disrespectful. You're teaching them to be disrespectful. No, it's just a joke. It's just all fun.
You're teaching them how to love another person in a different way. That's all it is to it.
Yeah, and how not to be a snowflake.
Yeah.
How to take a joke.
Because a lot of people, I think, have forgotten that, like, if I'm making fun of you and it's not in a mean-spirited kind of way, like, that if you're my friend. That if you're my friend, because it's the things that I'm making fun of you. Sometimes I actually like those things. Like it's like certain people will have things about themselves that they dislike. Chances are good I'm going to make fun of those things because I don't hate those things about you.
Yeah. And I'm not saying anything against MLK Day, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just, the same thing is with Veterans Day and other what I call bank holidays, where most every business is still going to be open. You just don't think about it. Now, the majors, and I explained this to my granddaughters this morning. I said, do you know what a bank holiday is? No. So I explained it to them. I said, now your majors are Christmas, New Year's, Easter, which doesn't count because it's always on Sunday. 4th of July, Memorial Day, Labor Day, those are your majors. Thanksgiving. Those are your majors because most everybody's off.
Yeah.
And it was nothing against Martin Luther King Day. I'm actually a very great admirer of Martin Luther King. And I got no problem that got a day dedicated to him. It's just that his day is not considered one of the majors. It's not one where everybody gets off. So why am I going to? My daughter talked to me like, well, duh, it was Martin Luther King Day. Well, duh. Well, duh. It's not a big holiday, so why am I going to think about it being off? A little communication.
Yeah, see, we have holidays too that are like that. They're like bank holidays, but we don't really have that many that are like at least cool reasons. At least for Martin Luther King, I can respect that because he was cool. Yeah. We have them for Family Day, which is just like, oh, so you're giving us a day off to spend with our family. Do you really think people do that anymore?
I happen to respect Martin Luther King, and I'm a firm believer and supporter in his dream of people being judged not by their color, but by their character. I believe in that.
I do too.
So
it was never even a question. Like in this day and age, it's not even a question. It's still one of those observable fascinations that I have with the race baiters, when they bring up stuff like that. And it's just like, if I were to tell you the truth, you would still try to work it out as something racist, because I could sit there and be like, I honestly just don't give a shit. I don't have the energy or the time to waste on giving a shit about things like that. But that makes me colorblind, and therefore I'm racist.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But anyway, I thought that was a humor story. I had mentioned it on Twitter, but I know not everybody has Twitter. It's like, of course, I've been known to do things like that before. Years ago, when I was still working in car garages, and the garage I worked at was literally on the opposite side of town. Indianapolis is no New York City, but it takes up an entire county. So that's a good little trip to the other side of town. That's a half hour at least, right? And through some pretty nasty areas it takes. The only way over there in any timely fashion is to go through an area of our highways here in Indianapolis that's called the Spaghetti Bowl. And it is called that for good reason. Extremely good reason. It's an area where two interstates meet and join for about 1.5 miles and then redivide. It's extremely confusing. But I got up, got ready for work. I had to be there like at 6:30, which means I have to be there early because I got to open up the gates and all of it, and get the doors open, get the lights on, get everything going. And then I realize, okay, where's my coworkers? Nobody's showing up. I'm used to being the first one there because I always was, because it's just how I am. But at a certain point, you're starting to think, where's everybody else? And then it struck me. It was Saturday and we weren't open.
I am. So do you always get like a 1 day off on the weekend, or is it just for a holiday for that one?
Well, at that time, at that business, we were closed Saturday and Sundays. Now, a little later on, we were actually open half a day on Saturdays, and then so forth. Real quick, thank you, Willie Billy, the Hillbilly. Thank you for the donation. I started working for a different farm, and I was surprised when I got Christmas and the days off before off. I always work 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I've had jobs like that too.
It's nice when they do it. Like it's one of those things where, especially for a farm, because on a farm, it's not that they don't want to take a day off. It's just that you have responsibilities on a farm.
Yeah. Working on a farm and having worked on farms before, it's a 365 day a year, 24/7 job.
Yeah, it's not that you don't want to have the time off. It's just I could see that though. Like I mean, if your biggest equivalent for things that needs to be done is just like you have animals that you have to feed and care for, then yeah, you get that stuff done and, you know, relax for the rest of the day. But it's nice that they let you guys do that. Alex,
Hey,
how you doing, sir?
what's going on, Alex?
Every time I call him
Don't
sir,
lie to me about penis. You don't have one, and I know it.
every time I call him sir, I feel like I slur my words just a little bit because I know how British he is, and it sounds like in my head like I'm calling him sir.
Vanilla has your penis in her purse. Don't lie to me. Thank you, Paul Farrell, for the donation. No comment. If that's the worst thing anybody's ever said to me, Alex, you know, I think I'm doing good. You're not the first to tell me that, and probably won't be the last. But does mine work? I don't know. I have no reason to see if mine works anymore. I'm old, and my wife's old, and lost interest in sex years ago. So I have no reason to know if it works. Doesn't matter in my case. But yeah, you imagine spook dust. Probably. Yeah, it would probably be a big puff of dust. Probably. But yeah. So yeah, I've always been like, of course, that day I was talking about where I showed up and it was Saturday and realized I wasn't even open. I didn't waste it. I thought, well, I just as well go out and eat breakfast while I'm here.
I don't even know why my brain went there because we're talking about penis and you being an older man, but like I have this image of a dude in like with like American underpants raising the flag.
Yeah. I don't have any red, white, and blue boxers. No. And I am a boxer guy.
No, I'm just saying out there's definitely American dudes who have the equivalent of, and you know.
They absolutely sell American flag boxers. They absolutely do. I just don't own any.
Jen with her daddy. I don't actually have daddy issues. I get along quite fine with my dad. Maybe grandpa issues, because my grandfather was never in my life, because he was old and he was a social butterfly and he was more interested in socializing with other old men.
Yeah. But, well, I have a similar thing. The person that I call Papa, been dead now for over 30 years now, was not blood related to me. He was actually my dad's stepdad. But I challenge anybody to tell me he was not my papa, because he absolutely was. He was the guy that done the job. Because the guy that was blood related to me was a piece of crap that left my grandmother with children when my dad was 7 years old, and they never seen him again. You know, and in fact, the first time that I ever met the one that was blood related to me was at my papa's funeral. That's when he decides to show up. So,
yeah, I think it is probably kind of a bit of a thing. Like, I wouldn't say it's like, you know, I'm not I'm not mental because I kind of miss having a relationship with a grandparent. It's just that my mom's dad would have been an amazing grandpa. It's one of those things where I firmly believe that, just based off of how he was with my mom and my aunt. Yeah. But he died in his early 50s. He was the survivor of a Russian camp, and I don't know if any of the stuff that he ended up with later in life might have been caused by it or if it was just hereditary, but he ended up with like severe cancer towards the end of it. And it's one of those things where, like, short of having records of it in the family, there aren't any. So, you know, cancer is one of those things that, like, it's usually hereditary, isn't it? Like, at least from what my understanding. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it just made it worse because of the concentration camps. It's not like they had health care in those situations. So if he'd had stuff and not been able to check it.
My maternal grandfather on the other side was a German Jew that was born at the turn of the century. You do the math.
Yeah.
So, but he was the sweetest man, absolutely sweetest man, and lived long enough that my children got to know him. Uh, just a sweetheart of a man. He was illiterate. He'd never learned to read or write, and it always bothered him. But like, Grandpa,
Well,
I don't need that for me to love you. I don't care.
yeah.
That you can't read or write. Nobody cares. Uh, you know.
All that really matters is that he loved you, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing. Like, I didn't have issues with my grandmothers. So like the thing with my grandmothers is my maternal grandmother on my dad's side, yet again, it's a case where she died early in life. I only have ever had a step grandmother. And with her, it was kind of weird. Like she liked me, but I think she liked me because both of her children ended up going in ways that she didn't like.
Now,
And
like I said, he was a very sweet man, but he was a whore dog.
yeah,
He was. I mean, my mom's parents had also been divorced and remarried and yada yada, and Grandpa was he was a playboy. He was a player. Even he was well into his 80s at the end of his life, and he was still going out to the dance halls to try to pick up women.
well, my
And he was getting them.
to answer Alex, my grandfather on my mom's side, he was Austrian. So if he was a soldier, then chances are good he was probably doing naughty things to Jews. But I'm not saying that he was doing it because he agreed with it. I'm saying he probably did it because everyone at the time, it was either you were part of it or you weren't. And if you weren't, then good luck.
Which reminds me, for some reason, the last stream, or maybe it was the stream before, recently I mentioned that I've got into watching this show on Netflix called The Repair Shop. It's a British show, and it's very interesting to me because it shows what it is. It's a show where people bring in these and a lot of them are antiques, but they're not all antiques. There were even some Doctor Who toys from the 70s, so more recent stuff. But a lot of them are antiques, clocks, anything, whatever. And it doesn't have to even be anything that's worth a lot of money. It just means a lot to the person, has a lot of sentimental value, that are broken, and they fix them. And I'm just fascinated with it to watch them fix these different things. And there was one episode recently that I watched where it was a violin, and this violin was in pieces.
Ooh.
It was just in pieces, but they did restore it. Had history. The original owner on it, and you could see two places where they patched it. The original owner on it was Jewish
Mm-hmm.
and had been taken to Auschwitz and had been forced to play in the band that was used to calm the people coming off the trains so they didn't realize that they were heading to their death.
That's sad.
And there were places that they kept that had been patched. It had been damaged, the violin, while they were in Auschwitz, and they had been patched with whatever they could.
Well, actually, Pink, I would say that if you have stuff from the 70s at this point, some of it is technically antique. Like, do you see anyone with a rotary phone? I mean, it's just the thing with antiques. It's all that really matters when it comes to antiques is, were there a lot of them that survive? Because if there's a lot of them, then chances are it's not worth as much as you think.
but there were these patches that they repaired with whatever they could find around the camp, and they incorporated that into their repairs, kept them in there because of the history, that represented of this violin.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, by the end of that episode, there were tears in my eyes. I tell you, there were tears in my eyes. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not ashamed of it. It got to me emotionally.
But that's actually a thing with the Jewish community. Like, when you really look at what Jews were doing during their wandering period, because that's really what it is. Like, everyone complaining about Jews in the past, like, the Jews didn't have a home to go to. That's what Israel is. But like, that's what they did. They specialized in certain careers because they didn't exactly have the infrastructure to build themselves up, like not having a place to go where you've got like a community of just you don't exactly have fighters as much as you'd think. So yeah, they specialized in banking, and a lot of them did focus on specialized goods like making instruments and things like that. It's interesting history. Some of it's sad, but like you gotta leave. This is the thing I hate with people who bring up the history, where people were suffering and like it's still happening. Everyone in history suffered. It's just a lot of people suffered more.
Yeah. Sean DW, better late than never, but I hate to hear that. Says he might have COPD or maybe emphysema. That's not good, dude. Sorry to hear that. But yeah, by the end of that episode, I will admit I had tears in my eyes, and the person that was having it restored didn't know how to play the violin. It belonged to her ancestors, her father, who had got it from his mother, and she was the one that was in Auschwitz. She didn't know how to play it, so they brought in a fellow, a Hungarian fellow that played the violin for her, and it was just beautiful.
I have to disagree with Midnight in Exile. It's not that more people suffered more recently. It's more of the fact that people don't really focus on what it is we actually did to our ancestors in the past. Anywhere in Europe or Asia or even Africa where you walk around, you are going to find pits of young men who were slaughtered in like the worst kind of ways. I could sit there and be like, yes, being led into a place where you're going to be gassed to death is absolutely horrible. And yes, it absolutely is, especially when they did it in the way that they did. But you can't really say, okay, well, a lot of people suffered right now, therefore it was more suffering than in the past. People were treating each other like shit all the time in history. Like, there's just there's never really a time where, like right now, where you look at your neighbor and you sincerely try to help them. In the past, that kind of thing is, you don't read that in history.
Data mentions bell bottoms, push button phones, black light, all that 70s stuff. And say what you want. I liked my bell bottoms; they were comfortable. Say what you want. I liked them.
It's not a competition. You're right, Mr. Dax. It should never be a competition. It's just like it's like I said. Everywhere I go, when I focus on history or I look at this place or that place, and it's just everywhere I go is a ghost story.
Yeah, and Midnight in Exile says that's why he said. I think you two are saying the same thing, just said it differently. Yeah. So
Hitler probably did have OCD.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. But yeah, you guys know me. I love talking history. Got into a very long, a little bit earlier today conversation with Timmy. Tim Kronsel. Most of you know as Sage on Twitter, if you know him. I call him Timmy as a term of endearment, but his name is Tim. But we were talking about the history of impeachment in America, and there was nothing political about it. It was just the historical aspect of the impeachment process here in America. And I found it very interesting. We talked until I just couldn't take it anymore. I had to lay down for a nap. The sleepies had moved in on me hard. I gotta lay down. Sorry. But
yeah, it's relevant right now. Like, I mean, I understand that one too, because right now for us in Canada, the big deal is Harry and Merkel. And don't get me wrong, I don't care about the two. In terms of the flashiness of it, I don't care about the two. But it's one of those things where we were talking about it a lot last week, and my brother was like, so everybody is saying that the reason they're leaving is because Merkel thinks that she's being attacked by racists or she's a bitch who's just breaking up a family. But my brother pointed out something that a lot of people have forgotten, and it's that the UK is kind of screwed because they're full of middle-aged and younger Muslim men, and he thinks that the real reason that they're leaving the country is because he thinks that they're going to be attacked. He thinks that there's going to be war, and that's why they're moving to Canada. And I'm just like, oh, okay, I don't know where that theory came from, but I'll have to look into it because it's not impossible.
Yeah. Piccolo says it's a distraction. I'm actually going to the theory that this Merkel and Harry thing is a distraction from Prince Andrew. Have you seen him in the news lately? I don't get that whole thing. I really don't. Of course, I don't understand the whole royals thing anyway, because I'm an American. We don't have that. We don't want that.
Oh, believe me, I don't want it either. At this point, I was fine with letting them come to visit the country as like a historical member of our history, because they are. I still respect the Queen. I think she's a grandma. I think she's a great grandma, and I feel bad for her.
But if one of them wants to quit being a royal and live a regular life, hey, I don't care. Don't matter to me, because I don't understand the whole royals thing anyway. I don't understand the fascination with them. I really don't. As an American, it just doesn't make sense to me, because that's the whole thing. We fought a war to get away from.
I mean, I kind of think there's a lot of factors. I mean, that was just one angle that my brother pointed out that I hadn't thought of. But I have thought about the Prince Andrew thing too. Like, it's a distraction from that, and I don't doubt that that's part of it too. I think they probably have a long list of reasons for why they want to leave. It's just the way that they're going about it, like the excuses that they're making, makes them look really shady, and it's kind of dumb.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants to live like a regular non-royal person, then hey, have at it. Welcome to the real world, where we pay taxes and work for our money. If
so
that's what you want.
Pink Hollow is trying really hard to get me to invite him on my stream that I start at 3, which might be a little bit late. And I'm not opposed to that, because I haven't even brought blood on yet, but it's too late to ask you now. But that's still a future plan. But yeah, I might bring Pink Hollow on, because like it's one of those things where I try not to get into the theory conspiracies, but sometimes they're fun.
Yeah.
Do you ever find that sometimes they're fun? Like I always put things on a shelf. It's like, I don't know that any of this stuff is true. I don't know.
Conspiracy theories?
Yeah.
It's fun for me to like maybe watch a documentary on them.
Yeah.
To look at it, but to get really involved, I'm not a conspiracy theory kind of guy. I'm not a tinfoil hat kind of guy. I look at most of these conspiracy theories and think, you're nuts. You're absolutely freaking nuts. Now, I get it. Some conspiracy theories have turned out to be true. Like the whole acid in the 50s and 60s thing, MK Ultra thing. Yeah, I get it. Some of it's turned out to be true, but I'm just not that kind of guy. I'm just not.
I wouldn't go to the the extent that a lot of people do. Like when you look at like the 9/11 people, like some of it I can understand it being sketchy. Like, there's a lot of stuff that went on there that was weird, but that it's an attack. It's an attack from a foreign force. Of course, there's going to be things in there that you're going to question, and yeah, you're going to look at the guys on your side, because like how could something like that even happen? But then they take it to extremes in a way that's just like, okay, now you're just being disgusting.
Yeah. And just I get tickled at the people that are just really into it, and I'm like, yeah, no. just no. And but like I said, I do realize that some of them have turned out to be true. but some of them are just so far out there that I'm like, really?
Have you ever watched the documentaries on the elongated skulls? The ones where like half the people watching it believe that they're aliens and the other half are like, you've heard of head bindings, right?
Yeah. Pancalo says, I have the best debunking for 9/11, and it's hilarious. People don't understand how blast furnaces work. Exactly. The whole 9/11 was an inside job thing. For me, the point of, do you understand the logistics of how many people it would take to set that up, and, and just the logistics of keeping all those people quiet?
And not a single one of them would have been noticed. It's not like the Twin Towers wouldn't have had cameras everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, we live in the internet age, people. There's no way to keep a secret anymore.
Even back then, we were still living in the internet age. It's just not as strongly as we are now. But everything was still documented.
Yeah, I'm just like, no, folks, no.
And I mean, how many years was it before that they'd had that scare where it was a truck driver in the basement, like that had gone off? Like there has been a bomb. There had been a bomb attack there before. Like it's not like they didn't beef up security like prior to.
that was actually the second attack on the towers. Yeah, it actually was. But the first attack didn't do near as much damage. And they were able to rebuild and refurbish the towers. After 9/11, there was no refurbishing that. They come tumbling down.
Well, RJ, I think Onision got exposed because there were enough people in his community that came out and were like, hey, there's some shady stuff going on here. I won't necessarily get into that one because I haven't been following it. Like I've watched maybe a couple of Chris Hansen's streams and then kind of got bored with it because it was just like Chris Hansen is not that entertaining as a person.
No, he does one thing, and he does one thing very well, and it's exposing pedos. He's kind of a one-trick pony, but he does it well.
I don't know how well he's doing with Onision, but I appreciate that he's doing it because Onision is one of those guys that should have been exposed like years ago.
Yeah.
Or at least looked into a little bit more further. And yeah, he can protest and be mad as he wants, but if I was him, I would welcome it. If he's not a pedophile, I would be like, hey, you know what? Come in and investigate this, and can you destroy this rumor about me? The fact that he isn't, I'm sorry. Anytime somebody is hesitant on something like that, I'm more inclined to think that there's something there. Or he's afraid that there's something there and he doesn't want to admit it. I'm full for Chris Hansen nailing Onision.
Sure. Absolutely. I'm for anybody nailing him because the man is just a piece of garbage. I'm sorry, but that's what he is. He's a piece of garbage.
Now that would be an interesting one. Like if we could get Hansen on not necessarily on our side, but like more on the view of like, if you're going to go after pedos, why don't you go after some of those female pedos? Because the fact of the matter is they're an issue too. Like this is something I've had conversations with before because I have a tendency to fool people because they think I'm younger than I am. So the amount of times I've had to turn away the 22-year-old who's like, I don't mind boinking a mom. And I'm like, there are many reasons why you should never do that.
Shio, no, it was not about the old man here, but I don't swing that way. If that's your thing, hey, you do you, but no. I've never looked at a guy and found them attractive. Sorry. Wrong equipment for this old man.
But no, I do want to see somebody start targeting the female pedos because it's one of those things where, yeah, even I can see it as being a problem. Like everyone sees the ones that goes after the males, but they never really focus on the ones that go after the females. And here's the thing: a female pedophile it's actually a thing. It's one of those things that the feminists never bring up because they're very dishonest. But when it comes to sexual assault, more women are probably going to be sexually assaulted by other women than they are by men because we're so screwed up by the idea of it that you don't bring it up.
Yeah.
You never bring it up because you're just like that. How do I prove that this happened? Because legally you have to be.
Very early on in my YouTube career, I done a video. It was one of the first few videos I done. I mean, it was that early. And it is still up on my channel. You can find it if you want to dig. Can't remember the title of it, but it's there. But it was against this woman that was claiming that, you know, men are the biggest culprits to hurting children. So I researched it, and this was the toughest video I've ever done still yet. It was so depressing and so hard to research because you had to research all these statistics of children being hurt, it not just hurt, but killed, you know, and abused in different manners. And after studying all the statistics, the conclusion was that it's not even close, that by far, it's not even close. Women hurt more children than men. Yep. And the statistics are not even close.
Yeah, I can believe that.
And the majority of those women are hurting their own children. You know, and it was just, it was the toughest video I've ever done. It just, I just wanted to sit and cry. You know, it just, it's just terrible.
I can see that. Like some of the, do you know what broke my images of women as being the caregivers for children? It was my I watched a couple documentaries on female killers. Like there's a couple of really good channels there was on YouTube. I don't know if they still exist anymore, that followed female murderers. And the first two that I found that were historical, there's this one lady in England and this one lady in Australia. And it was during the Prohibition time and a little bit before that. So there was a thing with orphanages and people of a certain demeanor just leaving their kids with these orphanages. And women were paid to care for these kids, and they got paid per head. So for the amount of kids you had, the more money you got. And the best way to make more money was to have movement within your children. So these murderers would, the first lady, she would starve. She started off by starving the children to death. So she would give them codeine. So it would calm them down, and she would give them enough codeine that they would sleep to death because they would starve to death. And then she got caught doing that, and she was like, I just didn't know. I thought I was calming them down. It's medicine for children, right? You're supposed to give them one a day, right? So they let her go, and they were just, okay, well, this was just a mishap, just a misunderstanding. And then she resorted to strangling them to death. So these are infants. She killed up to 500 children, all infants, and those are just the ones they found.
Yeah. So
you're telling me that women, and I mean this isn't the first woman that was caught. She's just had the most deaths. Like so, that's why she's famous, is because she was caught with the most deaths. You want to tell me that women are the best caregivers, and I'm just sitting here like, never. No, lots of women are very good caregivers. We are naturally inclined to be caregivers, but I think there's this little tie that people forget, that it's a mother instinct. If I'm not your mother, that instinct might not necessarily be there.
Yeah.
And if I don't consider you my child.
And I have some experience in this realm. Many years ago, when my youngest daughter was 16, she got pregnant. She was a teenage mother. And, it happens. And it happens to the best of families. But also, at the same time, she was going through that typical teenage rebellion and angst. And we were not getting along at that time, needless to say, her and I, even though she was still living here under our roof and eating our food, and we were paying her bills. And she went to her gynecologist and told the gynecologist a completely fabricated story, that I was abusing her and that I wasn't allowing to eat and all that. It was a teenager being a stupid teenager is what it was. But the gynecologist is bound by law to report it, even if it's a story. Even
Yeah.
if they doubt the story, they have to report it because it's the law. And so, family services got involved and yada, 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 and went through a whole long, drawn out thing in which at the end of, we were exonerated. It was found that it was all just hooey. But in the process, one of the things that they had to do is they sent out a caseworker to examine our home. And she come through it and looked at our home and my phone is going off. Hold on just a moment, people. I will be right back.
Okay. So we're gonna have to remember that thought for Bloodwing. Uh-oh. Oh no. Now I'm like, oh, what do I do? Yeah, I've never done that to my parents, but I did run away from home. I think that was my most rebellious stage. I was like 13, and I was like, I'm gonna run away and become a hermit.
Sorry about that, guys. It was just a scam call. Started out with, thank you for calling our Visa and MasterCard. I didn't call Visa or MasterCard. Shut up. One of those calls. But okay, so anyway, the lady comes out. She looks at our home. She looks in the fridge, which it wasn't completely stocked, but there was food in there. And she asked us, and I said, yeah, there's times that, we're poor. And there's times that maybe all we got is peanut butter, but there's always something to eat. Nobody's starving here, right? It may not be what you want to eat, but there's always something to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing. And she says, well, she looked at the house. Says, well, it's not that bad. It's a little cluttered, but you got grandkids. So I get that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, where's your daughter's room? And I said, see that room over there with no door on it? Because I had taken her door off because she had taken to sneaking her boyfriend in at night. So I took her door off. And I told the lady that. And she goes, well, I don't blame you. I said, well, that's her room over there. Just reach right inside and flip the light on. And there was trash knee deep in that room.
Yeah.
I said, that's her room. And I refused to clean it. She's 16-year-old and she thinks she's old enough to start having kids already. She can clean her own freaking room. I'm not cleaning it for her.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, long story short, I'm not going to go into every detail. She says, this isn't abuse. This is the lady talking, the caseworker. This isn't abuse. When I'm doing cases of people dumping pans of boiling hot water over their children, that's abuse.
Yes, that's abuse.
This is not abuse. So yeah, I mean, there are some really bad, sad stories. And then I sat and talked to this lady and she told us some, and she literally was at that time working on a case where somebody had dumped a pan of hot water purposely over their child. I'm like, geez,
that was one of those things that we'd had at our school, because we had a program called CALM in the high school, and we had caseworkers come in and tell stories, Yeah. And it's just their way of saying, it was the way of the school saying, like, if you have a situation where this is happening, or if you know of somebody in a situation where this is happening, you can always come talk to us because we want to get you out of a dangerous situation. But they would come in and they would tell us these kind of stories. And it was it's good and it's bad because it does traumatize you a little bit. But at the same time, it really makes you appreciate what you have.
Yeah. And by the way, I want to insert this really quick. My youngest daughter has since grown up. She's the one that just lost her husband recently. Has since grown up and told me, Dad, I'm really sorry. I'm sorry. I get it now because, I'm older. I'm not a teenager anymore. And, teenagers go through that rebellious thing and some of them go too far.
Yeah.
And not realizing the consequences, it really.
Oh, I don't doubt by now she looks back on it and is still like, wow, I feel shitty about it, Dad. Like, I don't doubt she still apologizes to you for it now. But,
Oh yeah.
like I said, I think my most rebellious thing that I ever did at that age group was I legit tried to run away. I was prepared to go and be a hermit. I mean, I wasn't because I was 13, but at the time I was just like anything to get away from my life. And it wasn't my family specifically. Like, I left them a note and it was all like, it's not you, it's all me. I've got problems in my head. And I just wanted to go run away and deal with it myself. And they found me pretty quick because I got pretty far for a 13-year-old carrying all her shit.
Oh, I was the teenager from hell. I've told my parents on many occasions, Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry. I don't know how you put up with it. Because, I was into drugs really heavy. I'd stay gone for weeks at a time, and no one knew where I was, all that stuff. Mama Minnie comes in. I didn't do it. I came in an awkward part of this convo. No, you didn't, but you did have problems of your own. You were the one that I got the call. This is Sergeant so-and-so from the Shelbyville Police. Do you know where your daughter is? Well, officer, since you're calling me, I'm guessing I don't. She's supposed to be staying the night at grandma's, but since you're calling me, I'm betting that that's not where she's at. Mama Minnie and her cousin decided to take grandma's car without grandma's knowledge or permission and took it out for a joyride and ultimately crashed it.
Did she have fun though? Was it worth it?
Typical stupid teenage stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a reason it's called young and dumb.
Cousin pressure is worse than peer pressure. You're not probably wrong because I mean, your cousin's always going to be there, and hopefully your friends are. But sometimes friends don't do that. So yeah, cousins are definitely worse peer pressure.
I love you, baby. You know that. But yeah, Mama Minnie and I went through the period of button heads pretty good too. I'll never forget the time we were living in a trailer at the time. Yes, Bloodwing lived in a trailer once upon a time. Yes, we did. And anyway, and it was not a double wide, but it was a wide and a half. So it was a bigger trailer. And I can't even remember what it was about, but her and I got in an argument, and she had some boys there with her. One of them she ended up marrying eventually. Yes, we are equally stubborn. And I told them, boys, you better leave. And she said, they don't have to leave. They have a right to stay here. And I said, excuse me, this is my home. Boys, by the time I count to 3, you better be out that door. And I didn't even look at him. I had my back to him. I said, 1, 2, slam. Didn't even make it to 3. Yeah, I love you. You put me through it, kiddo, but yeah, I love you. I love you. The Marines helped straighten her out quite a bit. Sean DW says trailer trash. Hey, there ain't nothing wrong with living with a trailer. They can be cheap, if that's what you got to do. And I actually liked that trailer. It was, except for the bathroom. The bathroom floor was getting pretty daggum weak.
I suspect my dad is calling me. I'm going to be like maybe 5.
Okay. Yeah, the bathroom floor in that trailer was getting pretty weak because you could sit on it and rock on the toilet. It would rock you all over the place. But the rest of the trailer was actually pretty nice. Had a fireplace and stuff, which I never fired up because I was scared to death to. Fires and trailers don't exactly mix, so I'm not sure why they put fireplaces in trailers. That doesn't make sense to me. But yeah, the trailer was not bad. It was just it's what we had to do at the time. It's what we could afford. So there you go. Uh, yeah, I never fired it up, kiddo. That's why you probably never realized it was there. but yeah, I didn't mind living there, except for the time when J Kid's girlfriend at the time ran into it with our van because mom had let her drive it and she ran into the trailer. I'm sitting on my computer and all of a sudden the whole trailer rocks and boom. It's because she'd hit it. Jedi goes first. Says I grew up in a trailer from age 8 to 14. I get really frustrated with people who ask me to check my privilege when they've all been in a higher class than I and my cousins. Yeah, I knew a lot of people that lived in a trailer because there was a big trailer park, a really big trailer park, very close to where I lived, within 3 or 4 blocks. Thank you, Pincalo, real quick, for the donation. Darwin Trailer is the brand name of those trailers. But so I knew I lived really close to the trailer park, and most of my friends lived in that trailer park. So yeah, I knew a lot of people that lived in trailers when I was younger. Spent a lot of time inside trailers that belonged to other people. Cannibal Caretaker says fireplace in a trailer doesn't make sense. That coming from the guy born and raised in the odd area of SpaghettiOs in Jello and salad in Jello. Yeah, actually, although when the cottage cheese in the Jello wasn't bad, I liked that. I did. Sue me, I liked it. Cottage cheese and Jello was not bad. But hey, and while Jen's on her phone call, I'll check in with chat. How y'all doing? Hope everybody's doing really well. Jack Gunsky, Jello and Jello. I like Jello. You know, there's absolutely zero nutritional value, and it's not filling at all. But I like it. It tastes good. I like it. And Midnight in Exile. I love cottage cheese, and so does Mama Minnie.
Yes.
I love cottage cheese.
I don't mind it. I like it with fruit, actually, or like mixing it with vegetables. If you've got good vegetables.
Mama Minnie and I could both sit down with just the tub of cottage cheese and maybe a little bit of pepper. Yes, pepper on cottage cheese is delicious. Black pepper. And sprinkle it and just eat it straight out of the container until it's all gone. Oh, I love cottage cheese. And yes, I am aware it's curdled milk in essence, but I love it. Do you remember salad and Jello? 6. I grew up in the 60s and 70s. That was the era when nothing was off limits of putting in Jello. That was the thing. Put it in Jello, it'll be good. Don't matter what it was. So yes, I do remember.
Yeah, I remember that leaking on into the 80s too, because every daycare that I had some equivalent to like random fruit and Jello, and it was
heck,
gross.
you got served it. You got served it in school.
Mm-hmm.
You'd go to school and what is this in the Jello? I don't know. Don't ask questions. Just eat it. You know, cottage cheese and strawberry jam on toast. You know, I never tried it on toast, but it probably is good. But I did mention something on Twitter. When I was a little bitty kid, Mom was trying to get me to eat oatmeal. Okay. And I didn't quite like it at the time. I love oatmeal now. I do. I eat oatmeal every morning for breakfast.
I have to point out to Shio that he's not quite right. It's not so much that Bill Cosby advertised for it. He advertised for Jello pudding.
Yeah.
Pudding.
But
for the ladies, you know.
And I eat it because it's doctor's orders. He wants me to eat oatmeal, but I'd eat it anyway because I love oatmeal. But anyway, as a kid, you know how it is when you're a kid, you don't want to eat certain things, and I wasn't quite liking it. So my mom taught me to take my oatmeal, spoon it out onto buttered toast, and eat it off the toast. And it was delicious. I loved it. Now, I haven't ate it like that for years, but I asked the question. I didn't get a lot of responses, but a lot of people liking it. am I the only one that ever ate oatmeal on toast? Because
I don't doubt other people have, but yeah, that's a different way of going about it.
yeah, it got me to eat it. Spoon it out on my toast, and I'd eat it that way.
Yeah, I think the thing for me in oatmeal is like I do like oatmeal, but it's one of those ones that sits in your stomach because it's the design. Like that's what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it's filling. It's very filling, and I do like it. Of course, my dad taught me how to eat fried eggs, and I eat my eggs what they would consider over medium, with the whites done and the yellows running, the yolk running. But you had to mash it up a certain way with your fork. You'd mash the eggs up really good and then spoon it out a bite at a time onto your toast and eat it off your toast. And I still eat eggs that way to this day. But you have to have enough toast so that when you're done, you got to have at least one piece left to wipe the yolk off the plate. That's part of the process. But we've done a lot of course, my sister, rather than eat cereal, would eat what I know there's a term called milk toast, but there is a real thing called milk toast. She'd tear toast up in a bowl and put milk over it like cereal.
Okay, that's different too. You know what? I'm not going to judge because like I've seen stories of kids using like soda crackers in making a cereal with that. So it's just there's a lot of stuff that I didn't do as a kid. Like I think my mom was very fussy. I think she was like I have a full-time job, but I still want to run the house like I'm at home.
Yeah.
So it was like you had cereal, or if she or my dad were available, we would have like eggs and toast. It's just like it had to be like a structured breakfast, and then on the weekends it was just whatever. It was usually cereal on the weekends because my mom was like, you know what, these are my days off.
Yeah, Mama Minnie says she needs hash, and in our house we do eat a lot of corned beef hash, and you mix that in with the eggs and put it on your. Oh, that's even better. I love corned beef hash. Looks and smells like dog food when you open the can, but it's delicious. 6 minutes says BW oatmeal on toast seems to be something that comes from Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio part of the country. Wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, it's probably a regional kind of thing. And since my mom was from here, from Indiana, my dad was from Kentucky, that would make sense. So Mike Savage says that bread and milk was called goody, usually had a sprinkle of sugar with cinnamon or the like added. Yeah. And as far as I know, my sister still eats it. Of course, she would take saltine crackers and crumble them up in a bowl and pour milk over them and eat that.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about. Yeah, I could see that. I mean, it's just I only ever really used like things like soda crackers for soup, and it was probably the grossest thing I ever did as a teenager, but it was tasty. But like you take whatever soup you want, like if it's like a can of like chicken noodle soup as your base, like you just take a handful of crackers and you crush them and you throw it in, and it that's what makes it gross. It looks gross because it's all like soggy crackers, but it would.
Yeah, Sugargrass says cheese on corned beef hash, and I think that's an emoticon of someone salivating. Yeah, cheese on anything.
Mm-hmm.
I love cheese.
Yes,
I love all kinds of cheese, and I want all the cheese. I love cheese. I could sit down and eat a whole block of Longhorn Colby cheese and without flinching. Now I might not go to the bathroom for a few days after, but I love cheese.
Yep, me too. Honestly, there's a cheese for almost everything. There is like cheese for dessert. There's cheese for dinner.
I love. I even like. I even like goat cheese, and I've had goat cheese. It's good. Yeah, but Elwin says I love cheese, but my GI system does not love cheese. Yeah, same here. And I find that the older I get, the worse that gets. Now, I'm not lactose intolerant. My dad is. I can eat dairy products, and it doesn't affect me so much. But cheese will bind me up if I eat too much of it. Yeah, that's for sure. Cooked rice with milk like a bowl of cereal. Well, yeah, I thought everybody did that. Six. Who here eats cold cooked rice with milk like a bowl of cereal? Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in my house too, it was a thing to just smother your rice in sugar. Butter it and then smother it in sugar. Doesn't the goat get upset when you eat his cheese? I don't care. He can get upset all he wants. I'm eating the cheese.
You can just go and make some more.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know what? The goat gets a good deal because the goat gets to eat the lawn because that's what they're good for. They're great little lawnmowers.
Oh,
And then he gives you some milk for it, and he gets like peace and safety out of the deal.
Yeah. Honey and cinnamon for me. I guess you're talking about rice. Yeah. That would be good. I like a little bit of honey. Rice with maple syrup. Maple syrup goes with a lot of stuff.
Yes, it's surprisingly versatile. Yeah. I'm grateful for that discovery.
Yeah.
Especially on pork products. Maple syrup and pork products are just like that little mistress that you didn't think they could ever have.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things to do when I eat pancakes, to have sausage links with it. And in my opinion, the syrup is for dipping your sausage in. I mean, that's what it's for. Got to get as much on that sausage as you do on the pancakes. And brown sugar, yeah, it does. Unfortunately, and I almost made it to the end of the stream. I gotta go to the bathroom, Jen. I'm sorry.
You're doing great.
Yeah.
That's what I was told. You're supposed to stretch it out. I mean, I even went to the bathroom before the stream started, and I even had a little side bathroom trip because I was supposed to get the phone, and I'm just gonna call my dad back because.
Well, there you go. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys in the chat can appreciate that. Like, it's not that I don't want to stop and pause and talk to my dad. It's just that for some reason, when I tell my parents I'm kind of doing something, can I get back to you in like an hour? It goes through one ear and out the other. And it's just like, wait, you want me to wait? And it's like, well, I'm kind of doing something right now. It's not going to take me forever. I promised my dad that I would help him do a house cleanup tomorrow because my mom's coming back from her holidays, and he helps me out with a lot of stuff all the time anyway. So I like to do little things to help my parents out, and like, thank you for all the drives you give me, Dad, and things like that. And for some reason, I can't put it off for an hour to be like, so when do you want me to stop by tomorrow, Dad? I'll call him back as soon as this is over. It's not a big deal. Yeah, my parents have always been like that. It's like, oh, we're going to come get you in like 10 minutes, Jen. You need to be downstairs and waiting. And I'm like, okay. So I do that. And then I end up waiting 10 minutes because like in the middle of their drive, they got stopped by traffic, But if I make them wait like half a minute to come down because I'm changing clothes or something, yeah, it's not that though. It's just he's not going to sit there in a text conversation with me. My dad's not a fan of that kind of stuff. Like, he will text if he has to, but he'd rather have the phone conversation. Right? It's totally better than being stopped by the cops. Exactly. Yeah, he's okay. He's at that age where like impatience is prevalent, and the older he gets, the more impatient he gets. And it's just like, Dad, I hate to break it to you, but you're dealing with your kids. You should know who we are by now. I was raised by him. I'm very much more like my dad than I am my mom too. I would say, like, stubborn and very blunt. Yeah, that's basically it, Elwin. It's like the first job I ever really had. Like, I'd had jobs prior to, but this is the first one that I would consistently call a real job. And I'm working at Safeway in the deli, and I'm trying to serve customers, and my mom's like, I need to talk to you right now. And I'm like, are you a fan of getting me fired, Mom? Are you? Because that's what you're doing right now. And then I came home to rants because I think.
And I'm back, by the way.
Yep.
Sorry about that. I was trying to make the whole stream, and I thought for a little bit there I was going to make it, but I'm like, nope, ain't going to make it.
You're doing fine. You're doing fine. It's just basically what my doctor told me, because I've had in and out where my bladder would not work properly. Like I'd have to go to the bathroom all the time, and he's like, at your age, the only thing you can do is just stretch it out. So every time you have to go pee, make yourself hold it for at least another 15 minutes, and gradually you'll be able to hold it longer. And it was just like, you don't think that there's anything wrong with my other parts, you know? You don't think that, you know, a lot of it had to do with my weight, for the record.
Yeah. You know, mine's mostly my prostate. I'm absolutely, you know, there's no doubt it's my prostate. You know, I have an old man's prostate, and it affects the way that you go to the bathroom. But is what it is. Is what it is. It's part of growing old.
Yep. Yeah, I was just mentioning that to the chat too. It's just my dad and having to make him wait to call him back because I'm doing something, and it was like the equivalent is say they're going to come pick me up, and they're like, we're going to be there in 10 minutes. You better be outside and waiting. And I try to do that, you know, to the best of my abilities, unless it's like, you know, 30 degree, you know, minus 30 out, then I might be waiting inside at the door.
Yeah.
But if I'm late by like half a minute, they lose their shit. They could be late by like 10 minutes, and I'm supposed to sit outside and freeze.
Well, see, I can understand that. Well, sort of. See, I'm the kind of person, I mentioned it on this stream a lot of times, that I'm always early. I was raised by a man that literally, I mean, he said these words: if you're just on time, you're late. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm always early wherever I go. Even if it's an appointment, like a dentist appointment or something I really don't want to go to, I'm there early. That's just how I am. And when people make me wait, you know, I guess I expect other people to be the same way that I am, and they're not.
Yeah.
I get really frustrated. I have a brother-in-law. God love him. I love him to death. He's just one of the best people in the world. Would literally give you the shirt off his back. And he's the only one out of my family that's helping me with my dad. And so, you know, I love him to death. But this man would be late to his own funeral. I mean, I'm serious. If Larry tells you that he'll be there by 6, don't expect him till 6:30. It's just not going to happen. And it frustrates the crap out of me.
Now, don't get me wrong. I do try to live by the be there early mentality. It's just sometimes things happen where it's just like, okay, so you could be late because something happened, but if I'm late because something happened, and it's a parent's thing. Like, I think it's a parent's thing. It's not like they don't understand that, like, sometimes they're not really being fair when they go after me for stuff like that. It would be one thing if, okay, so like back in my earlier 20s, I could say that, yeah, they had an excuse to complain, because there were times where I probably could have been more aware and been a little bit more on time. You know, when you're younger, sometimes your brain gets full of like thoughts of like, okay, should I do this and this and this and this first? And it's just like, okay, well, now I've just dicked around. But as an older person now, I don't do that. Usually I'm ready like 30 minutes in advance, and then it's usually the last 5 minutes where I'm getting like the last of the things that I need to do to be outside on time. And that's usually more to do with the fact that I live in Canada, you know, a cold place of the world where, you know, you're not going to sit inside with all that stuff on, because you're going to make yourself sick from overheating.
Right.
So yes, there are times where like, okay, well, I have 5 minutes till she comes in, so let's scramble to get everything out. And then if I'm sitting outside for a minute, like, big deal, it's a minute. It's just, if it's minus 28 outside, chances are good I'm going to be at that door waiting to leave, watching for them to drive up so that I can just run down and go in.
Well, yeah. Yeah, you don't want to stand outside in the weather. That's silly.
Yeah. But like I said, like for everything else, I was like that for work too. And it was kind of a bonus being there early anyway, because like you want to be early so that you can get ready in case you have to get changed. Like a lot of the times I would be bringing my uniform with me. I didn't wear my uniform to work because I worked with food. So it was just like, listen, I do this for a reason. It's just, you know, subways and buses are really dirty.
Yeah.
They're really dirty. So if I'm working with food, chances are good I'm going to keep my uniform in a plastic bag in a backpack before I do anything else. So if I'm there 15 minutes early, that gives me time to change. So that means I have to be there half an hour early because I like to have at least a smoke.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, now I show up to work. You're, they have a rule. They don't want you to clock in before 10 minutes prior to your scheduled start time. But if it's at least 10 minutes till you can clock in, and I'll clock in at 10 till. And it makes sense because that gives me time because I've got to go count my drawer, make sure that it's good and all that stuff before I start. There's things I got to do before I can actually take over from the person before me. And but I'll show up at 30 minutes till almost every time. I'll show up and that gives me time to sit there at the counter, smoke a cigarette, drink on my cup of coffee because I'll bring a travel cup full of coffee with me and just get my head into work mode,
Yeah.
But
well, there's that too. It's also that too. It's like it's just sitting outside getting ready to go in, having my smoke. I'm already kind of like mentally preparing myself for the rest of the day, especially in customer service, because you can have great days where every person you deal with is really good, and then you can have shit days where every person you deal with is just like, yeah, I'm technically your boss because I pay for your wages, so I'm going to treat you like you're a slave.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. I mean, like that's just the mentality. I don't make enough money to really give a shit after a certain period of time. It's just, there are days where I'm like, it's if I'm due to retire, it's the last day. I'm never going to work another day in my life. That'll be the day where I just tell everyone what I think, because the problem at my age is I could do that and then have that reference. So
right.
A little bit longer.
Yep. Yeah, I get you.
Well, especially yours, because you sell smokes and things to people, and smokes are one of those touchy things where if you're saying no to someone who wants smokes, they're going to be mean.
Oh, trust me, you wouldn't believe. I'm like, on Sundays, we're only open from 10 in the morning until 5 in the afternoon. And so there's only one shift basically and one person. So even though an assistant manager will come in and do all their pre-shift stuff that they have to do, they're only there for a couple hours and then they leave on Sundays. I have to actually let myself in with the key and, and then lock the door back behind me. Anyway, you would be amazed at how many Sundays I've worked, and there's people sitting outside in their vehicles waiting on us to open. I'm like, people, it's just cigarettes. Go get an Egg McMuffin down the street and come back or something. Gosh. It's amazing sometimes. And I've had people, just blow their mind. I had the other night, it must have been Saturday night. It was Saturday night. We're open till 8 on Saturday night, which is an hour later than usual. We usually close at 7. And right at quarter till closing, I get a phone call. And of course, I got to answer the phone and I go through, hi, thank you for calling Low, blah, 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 blah. And there's a lady on the phone says, when do you close? And I looked at the clock. I said, and I didn't say at 8 o'clock. I said in 13 minutes because I wanted her to be sure that we were getting ready to close. She goes, I'll be there. Click. So I'm watching. I'm like, I hope this lady doesn't expect me to stay open late if she doesn't get here because the clock's ticking. It's going by. We're getting closer and closer to 8 o'clock. That clock hits 8 o'clock. I'm locking the door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. But I want to go home like anybody else would.
Yeah.
She showed up like at 5 till, which was plenty of time to do what she wanted because all she wanted was some vape juice for her vape. I'm like, you're killing me. Now I get it. I've been a smoker for 47 years. I get jonesing for nicotine. I get that, but come on. You guys are crazy. You're killing me.
Yep. It's always the last minute people too. Like the grocery store was actually probably the one where I can say that I probably remember the worst ones for it, because at a grocery store, you're not just buying a handful of things. You can have a whole cart or 2 carts. There were a couple times where we had people that were there up until the last minute with 2 carts, and you're just like looking at them like you realize that the half-hour period that we need to like finalize everything is now going to be a lot longer. And I mean, luckily I wasn't in the cash department. Like if you weren't part of the department, once it was closed, you could go. But there were times where it was a security issue. And I didn't get paid to stay later, but it was just I was friends with the people on cash, and I walked home with a couple of them. It was a safety thing as well. Like a lot of us would stay until the end because we wanted to know that everyone got out safe. And it's late night shifts are no joke. So like we were closing at 11 o'clock at night, and these people were like, "Oh well, you can stay here till 11:30. Sure, go home at 12. That's totally good in a city where like transit
people
stops.
just don't get that in retail. If you're a cashier, if you're on the cashier in most places, now maybe some might not be that, but like in my case, there's lots of things I've got to do after I lock the door before I can go home. I've got to go around. I got to turn off all the lights. I got to lock all the glass cases that we keep the glassware, quote unquote, the bongs and pipes and stuff is what it is in. I got to lock all those up. I've got to print off the final receipt from my cash register, and it's all hooked to the internet and computer. It tells me what the final drop should be. But I've got to print off the final tally on the lottery machine, and then I've got to go back. I've got to count every penny and make sure that it matches up. And if it doesn't, I got to figure out why. Got to lock the back doors, put bars on them, because you're not allowed to have the bars up while there's a person inside. It's a fire hazard. So you can't put the bars on until you're done. And it's just plenty of things that you have to do to get out before you can get out of there. And so I've had people show up at the last second. I mean, literally walk in at closing before I could get the door locked. And I'll run over, I'll lock the doors behind them, turn off the open sign and all that stuff, so nobody else comes in. But then they'll take their time. I remember one guy in particular showed up one Sunday right at closing, and he wanted to look at every pipe in the display case. Every pipe. And I'm not joking when I say that we've got literally hundreds to select from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not joking. We've got a very big supply, very big display of pipes and bongs. And it's just like taking his time. I'm looking at the clock. I'm trying to hit him like, come on, dude, I want to go. Without actually saying, will you hurry up? I want to go. And the same guy, he finally buys a pipe. I get him out of there. The next Sunday, the same guy showed up right at closing because he had dropped that pipe and busted it. And wanted to go through everything I had in stock once again. Midnight and Exile. No, it's not a weed store. It's a smoke shop. We mostly sell tobacco and stuff, but we do have a section for, we're not even allowed to call them bongs or stuff like that. We have to call it glassware. That's what we have to officially call it, our glassware.
Yeah, it's one of those weird clauses when it comes to pot paraphernalia. It's like you don't necessarily need to use it for pot. So if you sell it, you're not doing anything illegal because it's not pot.
We got little signs up all over the display cases for tobacco use only.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to use that one hitter for tobacco.
Mm-hmm.
But no, mostly Midnight X. Our biggest thing is we sell supplies for rolling your own. We do sell packs and cartons, absolutely, and we do a big business on that too. But that and the lottery is our probably biggest sellers.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I don't miss that part of it. I mean, I kind of miss some of the lottery because the places that I worked, I mean, you can't buy them when you're working. Like, you have to come in on your own if you're going to do it. But I liked that aspect of it because I knew when it was a fresh pack. And because our store was actually pretty cool about letting you pick your own. Like, a lot of places, you'll have people who will let you pick your own. You know, they'll take out the pad and you just grab or point which ticket you want, and, you know, they take it and they scan it for you. A lot of places will just take what's the next one on the stack. And I always kind of like the idea of at least picking my own, because psychologically you feel a little bit less grief when you lose.
Yeah. Well, here's what I get a lot of. There's several people that come in and do this, and I hate it because our lottery display is on the floor, under a counter, but floor level. And we had to put it down there because someone tried to run off with the entire display. The entire thing, just snatched it off the counter and tried to run away with it. Now, that's got 32 kinds of lottery tickets in it. It's heavy. Paper's heavy, people. Needless to say, he didn't get away with it. And it was the same guy both times. But we have to keep it under the counter, and that kills my back, bending over there and getting it. But anyway, we get a lot of people to come in. Can you tell me what number number 25 is on? They want to know what the number of the lottery ticket is because they're numbered on the back. Okay, can you tell me what number 17 is? They'll go through like 5 or 6 of them, and for some reason, somehow, some of them feel that certain numbers into the roll is luckier than other numbers. I don't understand the logic, but yeah, I get bunches of them to do that, and I'm sitting there thinking, I wish you'd hurry up, make up your mind, because my back's killing me.
It's always a theory with gamblers. There's always like, you know, I won once on this one a couple times, so maybe these type of tickets are the ones that are most likely to be winners. And it's one of those things where, like, you know, maybe that year that was true. It might have been programmed for that year, but the thing is like, it's all random. It's all random. They're always going to be random. So, like, yes, this year this number might be more lucky than other numbers because it's how it's been computer programmed.
They're a superstitious lot. I've found that out since going to work there. They are, lottery players are a very superstitious lot.
Yes.
There'll be times that, you know, you might make a mistake because that lottery machine is not the most user-friendly thing in the world. It's really not. And it's easy to make a mistake, not punch in what the customer wanted. And of course, when it prints out, they'll look at it, this is not what I wanted. I don't want it. Now, some of the online lotteries you can cancel back out.
Yes.
But not all of them. And if it's one of those, then you've got to hold on to that ticket and try to sell it to somebody else, which usually isn't a problem because so many of them are superstitious. They feel like it's lucky to buy a ticket that somebody else turned down.
Yes. Yep.
So we'll just put it out on the counter so that they'll see it there, you know, and say, what's this? Well, it's a lottery ticket that somebody didn't want it. I'll buy it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And there's no method to the madness either. It's just so there's different ways that people go about with lotto. So one of the ways that I know is via the office people. So the office people usually have a good setup. What they will do is they will band together so that they can get more tickets. So it's a group effort. You get a little bit more money in the pool, you can buy more tickets. So, you know, my mom hosted one for her office, like her particular office. So they were spending maybe about $200 on tickets between 6 people. So I mean, it's a bit of money, but not really when you look at 6 people. And I you know, I'd say in like the 20 years that my mom was doing this, they maybe won $2,000.
Yeah.
You know, which is why I'm just like, it's one thing to buy a ticket, and you're just like, you know what? Even if I don't win, I can at least dream about it. You know. And that's what I view lottery as. It's like it's a once in a lifetime chance that you win something, but most of it is just a dream. You're just dreaming about money.
Jetto Ghost Part. Yeah. Powerball and Mega Millions are 2 of them, and the Hoosier Lottery you cannot cancel here.
Yeah.
I think all the others you can, but those 3 for sure you cannot cancel, and so you got to try to sell it to somebody else. And you're sweating it till you know it's going to sell because somebody's going to walk in and want it, but you're still sweating it until you do. But having said that, it is that time. It's been 2 hours. Man, that went fast.
It sure did.
Thank you, chat, as always, for coming out and hanging out with us, and thank you for your comments and your donations and your likes and shares and all that stuff. You know, this channel just couldn't happen without you. Thank you, Jen, for coming on short notice. Anything you want to shout out?
So I am going to be doing a stream at about 3 or 5 o'clock Eastern time. That might change a little bit just because I have to talk to my dad first to see what's going on.
Right.
And my plans might change a little bit, but guaranteed I probably will be streaming again later this afternoon. And then yet again on Thursday. And then we change our focus on Functional's channel, but I'm still streaming there.
Okay. As for me, as I mentioned before, unless I get called in, which is always a possibility, there will be a stream, Redneck Radio, on Thursday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. And as I said, the footage is recorded for Redneck Trek. I just got to do the voiceover and then edit it. I'll give just a little bit of a spoiler. Oh, BJ gets a promotion to full captain this episode. And of course, you all know that means a new ship soon, too. Boy, this ship didn't seem to last very long. It leveled up pretty quick. But yeah, so be looking for that on this Sunday at 5 to premiere at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, unless I get called into work, then it'll be a half hour later at 6. But anyway, thanks everybody for coming out and hanging out with us, and appreciate you. Thank you, Jen.
Oh yeah.
Till then, get out of my yard.